Arlo. 3 years ago, the silence began. It started with a chipped coffee mug in my hand, a flimsy pretense for an anchor as the world shifted on its axis. "I need space to find myself," she'd said, a casual pronouncement delivered over the cold expanse of our granite kitchen island. I, the fool, the soon-to-be ghost, had just asked about the late-night calls from someone she'd saved in her phone as Melanie. She laughed, a sound so bright and dismissive it felt like a physical blow, and said I was being paranoid. That was the last true conversation we had. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just evaporated. My name came off the lease, the divorce papers were signed without comment, and I moved 1,000 miles away to a small town in Oregon, a place where no one knew me or the profound, echoing quiet I brought with me. For 3 years, I lived in that quiet. I ate alone, worked remote jobs under different names, bought clothes from discount bins, and consumed entire television series without saying a single word aloud. That kind of solitude doesn't just change you, it hollows you out and fills the empty space with a different kind of person. A harder, quieter one. Last Thursday, a former colleague offered me a freelance photography gig at a corporate gala in Chicago. It was a lifeline born of financial desperation, a chance to make rent for another month. I packed my gear, my heart a hollow drum against my ribs, and went. The gala was a sea of synthetic smiles, overpriced suits, and the predictable scent of catered shrimp. It was a world I had long since abandoned. I hadn't even fully set up my camera when I saw her. She stood at the center of it all, a brilliant slash of red in a dress that looked like it cost more than I'd earned in the last 6 months. Her hair was shorter, sharper. She radiated a fierce confidence, the very version of herself she had claimed I was holding back. But when her eyes found mine across the room, past the buffet table and the networking badges, she stopped breathing. Then the tears came. Real, ugly tears, not polite sobs, the kind that make people look away in secondhand embarrassment. Her champagne flute slipped from her grasp and shattered, the sound a sharp punctuation mark in the soft jazz of the room. I didn't move. My body locked up like I was the one who had been exposed, not her. She just stood there trembling, mascara bleeding from her eyes like ink on a wet page. I hadn't seen her face in over 1,000 days, but I still remembered every contour, the small scar on her jaw she always covered with foundation, the way her left eye closed a beat slower than the right. Her built-in wink, she used to call it. Now she just looked tired. Without a word, she turned and wobbled on those ridiculous heels she once mocked on other women. She disappeared through the exit doors as if the fire alarm had gone off. A ghost of my old self, a part that still yearned for answers, followed. I found her leaning against a parking meter in the cold night air, clutching her phone like it could save her. "Arlo," she whispered, a name no one used anymore. I'd stopped going by my first name after the divorce, signing everything as L. Turner, a quiet way of shedding the man she had left behind. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice cracking. "How? Why now?" I didn't answer. I just pulled the camera strap from my neck and held it out, a silent testament to my new life. "Freelance work," I mumbled, a lie so brittle it could break. I had seen the gala invite with her company's logo on it, and I still came. Not to confront her, I wasn't that brave. I just wanted to see who she'd become without me. It turned out she'd become a woman who cried in a $700 dress at the sight of a man she'd discarded. She stared at me like I'd clawed my way out of a grave. "You look so different," she said. I wanted to laugh, to scream. Instead, I said, "I cut sugar." She smiled, a bitter curve of her mouth through the tears. "You're still a weirdo." She thought this was a reunion, a chance for redemption. She didn't know how deeply I was broken, how many nights I'd sat in silence, wondering how quickly she'd moved on. And then I said something I hadn't planned, something that shattered her fantasy. "I saw you, that night, in the hallway, on the phone with someone named Melanie. You said I was a ghost in my own home." Silence. Dead, cold silence. She backed up a step. "You were spying on me." I shook my head. No, I was living there. I'd just forgotten. The words were flat, without anger or performance. I wasn't trying to win or hurt her. I just needed her to know I had always known. The silence between us was profound. It wasn't awkward. It was a burial. She looked down at the pavement, as if searching for a different timeline. You were home that night? It wasn't what it looked like, she finally said. I flinched, not because I believed her, but because it was such a lazy, predictable lie. After 3 years after what she had done to me, that was all she had? Okay, I said, a brittle nod. Let's pretend it wasn't. Let's say it was something noble, something I wouldn't understand. Arlo, come on, she pleaded. You had someone in the house, Cassandra. Her eyes snapped up. We never used her full name unless something serious was happening. Taxes, death, or betrayal. The name sliced the air between us. There were things you didn't see, she said, quickly stepping toward me, trying to reclaim ground. Things I was going through. And that man, I said, tilting my head. Was he part of your healing process? She blinked rapidly, crossing her arms as if to fold into herself. I was lonely, Arlo, she whispered. That broke my lonely. I had spent 2 years planning our future, putting aside money she never asked for, offering every piece of myself. And she had handed her vulnerability to someone else, because I wasn't entertaining enough. You could have told me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. You could have fought for us. I did, she said quietly. You just weren't watching. A black car pulled up to the curb. My ride, she muttered. A man opened the door. He was waiting for her. Are you happy? She asked, her eyes glossy. I looked past her, through her. No, but at least I'm not lying to myself anymore. And then I turned and walked away. My camera was slung over my shoulder, my heart punching against my ribs. She let me leave again. I thought that was it, the closure I had sought. But before I reached the parking garage, I heard the frantic clicking of heels behind me. Arlo, wait, please, she called out. I stopped, mostly out of disbelief. She caught up to me under the dim orange glow of a street lamp, chest heaving, face streaked with ruined makeup. This wasn't the woman I had left. That woman was composed, controlled, calculated. This woman was coming apart. I didn't expect to see you, she said, voice brittle. I didn't think I'd ever have to face you again. Yeah, I muttered. That was kind of the idea. She stepped closer, and I could smell her perfume. The same one I found clinging to a shirt that wasn't mine the night I left. I need to explain, she said. Not for you. For me. I let her. That was my mistake. I didn't fall in love with him, she began. It was attention, Arlo. I felt seen. I felt like an accessory in my own marriage. That stung, not because she said it, but because a part of me had always feared it was true. I thought being stable, being the reliable one, was enough. He made me feel exciting, she continued, but it didn't last. I ended it weeks later. I wanted to tell you, I swear I did, but you were just gone. I looked for you, she added quietly. Called hospitals, old friends, even your mother. That got my attention. My mother. She wouldn't talk to me, she said, slammed the door in my face, said if I cared that much, I never would have let you slip away. Good. At least someone still had my back. She looked at me with something I hadn't seen in years. Humility. I messed up, she said. I ruined the one thing that was ever stable in my life. And you didn't even yell. You just vanished. Because if I had yelled, I said, you would have made me the villain. And I didn't want to spend another minute being painted as something I wasn't. I never told anyone what happened, she said. I didn't know how to explain it. You didn't have to explain it, I replied. You just had to live with it. Her bottom lip trembled. I see you now. I really do. But it was 3 years too late. The man she saw now wasn't the soft, trusting man she had left. She had broken him. What stood in front of her was his memory, turned to stone. I'm not coming back, Cassandra, I said firmly. She nodded slowly. I know. I'm not the same. I know that too. I hope you find someone who sees you the way I didn't. I did, I replied. He's quieter now, older, wiser, but I finally see him too. I turned toward the garage. This time she didn't call after me. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the unfamiliar guest room of my friend's condo, replaying every word. It was surreal. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times, and it had unfolded with quiet, brutal honesty instead of the explosions I'd anticipated. Then came the texts the next morning, a frantic cascade of messages. Can we talk again? I know I have no right. Then, at 10:03 p.m., she sent a photo, an envelope, my handwriting on it. For when you're ready to stop pretending. I had left it on our kitchen counter the day I disappeared. I never opened it, she wrote. I couldn't. Something inside me shifted. I had assumed she'd thrown it away. The fact that she had kept it untouched for 3 years hit me harder than anything she'd said in person. Against every instinct that screamed at me to run, I typed a reply. Fine. 1 hour. Quincy Hotel lobby. Don't be late. I got there early. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Her hands trembled as she sat across from me in a stiff leather armchair. I read it, she said immediately. Liar, I said. She bit her lip and gave a tiny nod. I just read it this morning, after I saw you. What did it say? I asked, even though I knew every word by heart. She reached into her purse and handed me the envelope. It was still sealed. I want you to open it now, she whispered. With me here. My fingers shook as I tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with my handwriting. You'll lie to yourself before you ever admit you lied to me. But one day, when the noise dies and you finally listen to the silence, you'll hear the echo of what you threw away. And maybe then, just maybe, you'll remember that I loved you through every single warning sign. I finished reading and looked up. She was crying again, but this time she didn't speak. Finally, there was nothing left to say. Did you ever actually miss me? I asked. She blinked, startled. I missed the version of you that didn't make me feel like I was failing all the time. So no, I said quietly. You didn't miss me. You were too much, she whispered. You loved me too hard, too purely. I didn't know what to do with that. I wasn't enough. I had been too much. I sat back, the weight of her words settling on me like dust. I tried to make you the bad guy, she added. But it was just guilt. I was already gone emotionally. I was the one who changed. She pulled a small photo from her coat, a picture of us on our 3rd anniversary, smiling, young, doomed. She slid it across the table. Kept this, she said. It's all I have left that still feels real. I didn't take it. I stood up slowly. You can keep it. I don't need it anymore. I remember everything. Then I walked away, leaving her alone with the version of me she could no longer lie to. The air outside was cleaner, colder. Chicago nights always had a bite, but this one felt sharper, as if it were daring me to keep walking, to keep choosing myself. That night, I didn't replay the conversation. I didn't write in my journal. I just sat and breathed and realized something I hadn't allowed myself to admit in 3 years. I was no longer in love with Cassandra. I had been in love with the idea of her, the version I had fought to preserve while she kept slipping through the cracks. The real Cassandra, the one with secrets tucked behind her teeth and eyes that never quite stayed focused on me, had left me long before I left the house. I moved on after that night. I wasn't dating, but I started living like a man who had already grieved. That encounter became a final chapter. The version of me who wrote her letters and believed that love meant holding on even after it cut my hands was gone. I went back to my quiet 2-bedroom in Oregon, where people wave for no reason and the coffee shop barista remembers my order. I got a dog, planted vegetables in the backyard, and slowly, without realizing it, started to reclaim pieces of the man I used to be. I picked up a camera again, not for money or events, but for myself. I photographed trees, fog, and forgotten barns. There was something therapeutic about capturing things people overlooked. perhaps because I had spent years feeling overlooked myself. A local community college asked me to teach an intro course after one of my photos went viral. I said yes. The first class had 12 students, awkward, curious, kind. The kind of people I hadn't allowed myself to be around since I disappeared. That first semester, I caught myself smiling more than usual. A month after the hotel meeting, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name in her handwriting. I didn't open it for 3 days. Inside, on a single page, was a letter she had written by hand, with no flourishes, no manipulation. There's nothing I can say to undo what I broke. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed you to know that the person I was with you was the most loved I've ever felt. I was too selfish to hold it, too afraid to deserve it. I hope you find peace where I brought noise. I hope you find love where I left absence. And I hope someday someone holds you like you once held me, without condition. Thank you for teaching me what love looks like when it doesn't ask for applause. I folded the letter, didn't cry, just exhaled. She was right about one thing. I had loved her without condition, even when she lied. But now I was loving something else, myself. Maybe clumsily, maybe quietly, but finally and fully. Months passed. The leaves outside my window went from amber to bare. Her silence, once unbearable, now felt like peace. A clean break. I kept teaching. A woman named Elise, older than the rest, always lingered after class. She asked me why I took photos of things almost falling apart. I told her because that's usually when they're most honest. She smiled, a gesture that asked for nothing but understanding. We started getting coffee. It wasn't romantic at first, and I liked that. It was slow, real. One night, at an old bookstore, she reached out and touched my hand. It was the first time in years I didn't flinch when someone reached for me. We didn't move fast, we didn't label anything. But week by week, I realized I was looking forward to something again. Not just surviving, but living. I knew I had finally healed, not because someone new had filled the space Cassandra left, but because I had stopped waiting for her to explain why she left. I had given myself permission to let go. A year after the hotel, an email arrived. No subject, just a photo attachment. It was the picture of us she had tried to return, the one I'd left behind on the hotel table. But now, it was torn in half. My side of the photo was taped to a wall next to a postcard that read, "You don't need the whole picture to move on." No name, no signature. But I smiled because she was right. I didn't need her half of the story anymore. I had written the rest of mine. These days I still walk my dog, Huxley, and drink my coffee too late. Elise and I are planning a trip to Ireland. When I catch myself laughing with her in the kitchen, watching her dance to a song from the 90s like the floor is hers and hers alone, I realize something I never thought I'd feel again. I'm happy. Not perfect, not fixed, but whole. The kind of whole that comes from knowing exactly who you are and who you no longer have to be for someone else. Cassandra once told me I was too sensitive, that I felt everything too deeply. She was right, but now that sensitivity wasn't a flaw to be hidden. It was the quiet, unwavering strength that had finally allowed me to see myself, to love myself, and to finally feel at home in my own skin again.